Hi there, welcome along to Ali Beg ABTV here on YouTube. This is a review special. What I've done is I've collected together a group of well-known Aberdeen fans to discuss our season so far and our transfer window activity. Joining me this evening is Terry McDermott, huge Aberdeen fan, all the way from New Orleans. Terry used to work at the football club and he's now a singer-songwriter. And if you remember, a few years ago, he came runner-up on the US version of The Voice. I'm also joined by DJ Graeme Park, who we all know and love and grew up dancing away to his tunes in all those brilliant nightclubs in Aberdeen. And joining those two is Richard Wilkinson, who used to run a very prominent Aberdeen Football Club themed Facebook page. He's now also the owner of Beat 106 Online. So we've got a lot to discuss. It's going to be a really interesting show. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get on with it. Hi guys, it's fantastic to see you all. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really delighted that you're all here. And we're going to get straight on. We're going to jump straight into it. Graeme, I'd like to come to you first to kick us off. Just give us your general thoughts on the beginning of our season so far.
Well, you can sum it up in one word, which is disappointing. But there's so many. Richard's laughing.
It's PG show, so you've chosen the
Well,
PG option.
no, disappointing. But I have always been, well, not always, but try and be glass half full. And it's 3 league games. That's all. We've gone through seasons and lost more than 3 games. Europe was a massive disappointment, but having a red card, an unbelievably diabolically harsh red card in Bucharest didn't help. And losing those 2 goals at Pittodrie against Bucharest was slightly calamitous. But, you know, we've got so many new players who haven't played together and are still learning how each other work. So it's disappointing, but we're not even in the middle of September yet. And I think the international break has probably come at just the right time for us because with our superb new signings, hopefully on the training field, Jimmy can get everybody working hard and working together, and we can approach the Livingston game with confidence. That's what I think at the start of the season anyway.
Richard, same question to you. And please remember, dear boy, it is a PG rating.
I mean, pretty undercooked. I mean, every time I come on here, I just explain, obviously, my view of Aberdeen fans. You know, chronic curmudgeons, reasoned realists, blind faithers, happy clappers. I pretty much had sort of veered from my reasoned realist sort of kind of point of view to a bit chronic curmudgeon. You know, failed to register a point or score a goal in the first league, 3 league openers for the first time in 24 years. Not a great start. I think, you know, not great football either. Not really very pretty. I thought the Bucharest games were entertaining. I thought the Morton game was kind of went as expected. Yes, we can say we've not won at Hearts since 2017. Yes, we can say we've not, you know, sort of kind of beaten Celtic for however long that's been. That doesn't mean to say that we can't at least try and get a point off them. So disappointing is, again, a good word. I just think we've been a bit undercooked. You know, we've had 13 players come in, 19 players go out, and 13 players on loan. Just massive upheaval that I just don't think that we've been particularly prepared for. And, you know, hopefully, as Graeme says, we can kick on. But yeah, not pretty and not as we would have hoped.
Can I just say, Richard, that sounds quite positive for you for a change.
Terry,
Which is
Don't
good.
worry, there's plenty time. There's plenty time.
Yeah,
Terry, where'd you stand on it, fella?
I think probably somewhere between Graeme and Richard. Definitely Graeme's glass half full in that. There is reason to be optimistic, but I have to say I think this start to the season has pretty much been the life of an Aberdeen fan in a nutshell. Because you look at how we finished at the end of last season, and to be honest, that was a terrible brand of football. It was a terrible atmosphere at the club, especially after somebody dunting Mackenzie in the face with a chair. But then we go and win the Scottish Cup. And suddenly there's this brand new optimism. There's a generation of Aberdeen fans that have never seen us lift a trophy. There's the chairman is ecstatic pitchside talking about investing in the club, and then we take it right to the wire. And this is probably my biggest frustration with the start of the season is you didn't see Hearts trying to work out how to put their new team together. In the first 3 games, they just got points on the board and went to work. So you could argue we're a little underprepared, but then of course we take it right to the wire, and then we get in signings that are genuinely exciting, or that genuinely can be game changers. So yeah, are we a bit late to the party? Yes. Is it disappointing? Yes. But is there reason to be very optimistic? Well, if you told me, at the very start of the season, that if we were just a little patient, we'd end up with Larsson from Bologna, Lazetic from AC Milan, and Nisbet up front, I'd say, okay, we'll hang on for that then.
Yeah, yeah. We'll come to all the new signings in just a moment. But Graeme, can I ask, the transfer window shut 11 o'clock UK time on Monday evening. And until Kevin Nisbet was announced, I think it's fair to say that a lot of people were refreshing their browsers quite frequently throughout the evening. Was there ever a point when you were starting to think, I wonder if something is actually going to happen here this evening?
Well, first of all, I was at a wedding on Monday,
Oh, were you?
and yeah, and
Congratulations.
the not mine, but the father of the bride is an Aberdeen fan, and
Yeah.
all his family are Aberdeen fans. So there was about a dozen of us at the wedding, very subtly. So the bride and groom and their family didn't get onto it. We were kind of sending messages to each other on the day and going up to each other. But I was confident that we were going to get Nisbet back, mainly because I've been doing a bit of DJ work with Aberdeen quite a lot in the past 18 months. So there's people I can kind of
Are you your
contact.
sources?
Hashtag in the
Ooh.
know.
So I've got my sources, and although
IDK.
they never give anything away, the way they respond to my questions always makes me lean one way or the other. So quietly confident we're going to get Nisbet back, but to get him for £300,000 is great.
Yeah.
I did.
Third.
We all got
Yeah.
nervous at the wedding when I discovered that Millwall had knocked back 2 bids for him, and we're like, "Oh my God, this is now we're getting worried." And then it came through, and yeah, there
It
was
does make
another.
you it does make you wonder though, like how pathetic were those previous 2 bids if we've got him for £300,000? Like was it 50p and a pound of grapes kind of
I
thing?
think it was.
Yeah, well,
I think we must have offered them air miles or something because to get him for 250,000 is just that's ridiculous. That's a
it,
great piece of
it
business.
is, but I mean, but testament to the club. They were obviously confident in their negotiating skills and powers, and it worked off. And if he scores 15 goals over the next 3 seasons, that's £100,000 for 15 goals. That is amazing, amazing value. And as we saw last season, he did start quite slow and wasn't 100% fit. But after Christmas, although yeah, okay, our results weren't amazing, but that goal against Hibs at Pittodrie, come on, I mean that's worth £300,000, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, piece of
absolutely.
magic that.
Terry, according to reports, we didn't start negotiating with Millwall until last Saturday at the time of recording, last Saturday, which begs the question to be asked, why leave it so late?
Well, look, I mean, I think the first thing you could say is I'm just an Aberdeen fan at heart. I did work for the club obviously for years, and I did see a little bit of the kind of organized chaos that goes on behind the scenes. But at the same time, I'm a musician, and the fact that they left it to the last second and managed to pull off Nisbet for the price they did shows that sometimes you should just let these guys get on with their job because that clearly worked out pretty amazingly.
Hmm.
And I think you could say the same about Larson as well. I mean, and they obviously have, there was Jimmy Teelan talking about how he kept his eye on Stuart Armstrong. So these guys obviously it's maybe a little bit of brinksmanship. It's maybe about seeing how the chips fall. And of course, the guys that do come in are not necessarily going to be they're definitely not the only targets that they're going to go for. They're the ones they end up getting. So who knows, who they tried for or couldn't get, or if this was what they wanted. But ultimately, that's their job, and I think credit to the club where credit is due. They did their job well. That it actually, everyone I think that loves the club has a spring in their step and cannot wait for these 2 weeks to pass so that we can get right into Livingston.
It's a good
But I
point.
think,
Go on.
sorry, but I think as well, judging from the what I've read, Nisbet really wanted to come, and
Yeah.
surely that would have been a factor in it as well. But I must admit, when he came on as a sub for Millwall on Saturday, that was slightly concerning. He's like, oh no, he's playing. He's actually playing for Millwall.
Mm.
That was a slight concern. But listen, it all came good in the end, didn't it?
That's just London mind games. We're just testing our resolve. We're going to play him.
Yeah. What was really interesting, particularly in the last sort of 24 to 48 hours, is the shift in mood. Because after the Falkirk defeat, the mood was way down.
Oh, aye.
And honestly, I was expecting pitchforks and all sorts outside Pittodrie in the coming weeks. And now all of a sudden, after this window, Richard, everybody's up, everybody's excited again. And I have to say, I think it's been a fantastic window. Out of all the signings that we've brought in, who's the one that's really excited you?
Hey, who are you asking that to?
Sorry,
Well, I'll
Richard.
just
Yeah, go on, Graham.
okay.
Go on. You go ahead, Graham. Go ahead.
I'll say Carlson and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
pass it on.
yeah. Richard?
Stolen my thunder. I mean, in terms of players that we've actually seen, I think Choo Choo,
Yeah.
as Bob Mortimer might say, Ashish, whilst not brilliant in all the games, has just shown something really quite interesting and exciting for me. I think Milanovic is kind of dipped in and out. I think in terms of the excitement that we potentially had for him, is kind of not necessarily been there all games. I would agree in terms of players that we haven't seen yet, of which there are many. Carlson is absolutely the one that I can't wait to see on a starting lineup or on a subs bench and get some game time just to see what he's made of and what he can do for us as a team. So in terms of players that we've seen, Oshiche or whatever how you ever pronounce it, is definitely the one that's excited me the most, and then Carlson, the one I'm really excited to look forward to seeing.
What about yourself, Terry?
I think Lazetic's cameo, actually, I thought there was enough in there to get a little excited about. He's a very tidy footballer. He actually speaks, speaks better English than a lot of my mates, which I was quite impressed by when I heard the guy talk. I was like, bloody hell. But yeah, I think you just can't see past Carlson, can you? I mean, that he is an extraordinarily good footballer. I mean, and that I'm not diminishing the level we aspire to, but let's be honest. I mean, when this guy was the Eredivisie Player of the Year and put away, what was it, 35 goals in 89 appearances, and he wasn't even playing directly up the front. I mean, and if you actually spend any time watching this guy's reel, he is an absurdly talented footballer. And if Jimmy Thielen can get him to play in that kind of form that he had him at Elfsborg, we're gonna literally be on our knees crying when this guy leaves the club because he's as I saw somebody say, they said this could be our Zoltan Varga.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
But you're right. His real, he scores like every other goal was like from way outside the box. He can just plant it in the top corner. But
Anywhere.
it must be the fact that he used to work with Talib. That must be a factor.
Yeah.
But also that you've got to think of the Lewis Ferguson connection as well. If you're playing in the same team as Ferguson, you're going to say, so Jimmy wants me to go to Aberdeen, and Lewis would presumably tell him what a great place it was as well. And what was the other guy who went to Bologna as well for a bit?
It was Hickey, Aaron Hickey.
Yeah, but the Aberdeen midfielder who went to Italy.
Ramadani.
That's it. Yeah.
Lecce.
They're all, that's it. Lecce. They would have all said, "Oh, Aberdeen's a massive club," because it is a massive club.
That's right.
I have to ask, and Graham, let's carry on here. The question begs to be asked. with these new players that have come in, particularly in this midfield role, what will that now mean for the skipper and particular Sivert Hilter Nielsen, who are on the other side of 30 years old?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. But of course, surely there's room for everyone, not on the same team at the same time as on the same pitch, but with the European games on a Thursday and domestic games on a Sunday. Surely that's why we've got these experienced midfielders, who bring experience and will hopefully do a job in the middle of the park, but also um, keep everyone's heads, surely, because we've got some great young players in there as well. And that experience, I think, is important. But you're right. There's no way you could have all that a midfield packed with people over 30.
Yeah,
But look how fit Shinnie is.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, when he came on, I know he's not started every game, but when he comes on, he really does lift what's happening on the field. Red cards aside, of course, which kind of presumably brings people down. But I think everyone will play, just not at the same time.
Yeah, I have to say, Richard, for the first time in a long time, I had a look at the squad today and I thought, you know what, we're just about bang on the money here. We really are. And this is a squad that now should have the capabilities to cope with Thursday, Sunday football up until Christmas at least.
No, absolutely. I'm a little bit concerned about the defense, but in terms of midfield and certainly where on Sunday I was hanging my head of going, where are the goals coming from? I think feel a little bit more confident now that there are some goals in that team and there's some creative players that will create some goals. There's definitely depth. As to whether there's the balance that Jimmy was looking for, as I said, there's a whole load of players that we've just not seen yet, and I think that's going to be the interesting thing. I think where last year it took him a while to figure out who his best 11 was. And, we kind of lucked in, as we all know. Let's not, relive the past, but we kind of did quite well in that first part of the season. And then it all kind of went to hell in a handbasket. And then, as I said, I think so. It's about who's fit, who's, up, like not just match fit, but, fully fit in terms of, being able to do that. Who's going to be, as you say, are sort of somewhat more senior players in terms of Shinnie, Hilton Nielsen, and Stuart Armstrong. So I'm interested to see how that gets rotated. I'm interested to see whether up until Christmas time we will have a kind of first 11, or whether it will be about kind of statistics, analytics, and balance and things like that, or just a team that's going to go out there, score goals, win games, and hopefully not concede as many as we've been doing as well. So again, loads of players that we haven't seen. I'm keen to see them in action, and I'm keen to see there's going to be lots of speculation, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it in a second about what the best formation is going to be and what the best 11 is going to be moving forward.
Okay, so Terry, let me bring this to you then. We'll come on to the formation in just a moment, but one thing that is very obvious is the constant chopping and changing of the team week in, week out. Sometimes we see up to 5 changes per game. I think on average, it's about 3 changes per game. I think we're all in agreement that consistency is the key to winning football matches here, and a consistent 11, barring injuries, will give us a settled team. How key is that for you? And do you think that he's got to try and find a settled 11?
Well, I think the problem is that it's hard to differentiate from a fan's point of view whether you're looking for consistency on merit, or whether it's a lack of consistency because you can't find the right players. I mean, I would go all the way back to looking at Barry Robson, who refused to dip into his squad Sunday to Thursday, and that was could never quite get my head around that. He brought in these players, and then he wouldn't go to them, and then he complained about the team being tired after that long, arduous journey from a 1 hour flight from Holland. But so by the same token, if we do have a depth, and I think you're right with what you said, if you actually look at that squad now, and I saw somebody break it down by position, and they show you the players available in each position, and I can't remember a time that we had that much depth and availability. So I think we should be looking for consistency, but it should be on merit. If you're not pulling it after 2 games, 3 games, there's somebody waiting to take your job. There's somebody waiting to take your slot in the team. And it's been a long time since we've been able to be that ruthless and say that, well, you're not stepping up. There's somebody right behind you who's been champing at the bit or doing well in training. So yeah, I would say we do need that consistency. But if we are coming off a European match, I mean, for example, Shakhtar, that game gives me the fear. Absolutely gives me the fear. So, if say we've got a tough game against Shakhtar and then we have to go straight back into a league fixture, maybe even a rearranged game, well, yeah, maybe you want the consistency, but maybe those guys aren't going to be as sharp. We do have guys, you could argue, that would merit coming in and can bring quality. So, yeah, consistency where possible, but I don't think we should be scared to dip into the pool that we've built, because surely that's the point of having it.
Graeme, where do you stand on the formation? Because we've now brought in players who, Terry quite rightly says, are able to fill now nearly every single position. Up until, we would say for most part of Jimmy's tenure at the club, it's been this quite rigid 4-2-3-1 formation, cup final aside. Where do you stand with it? And with the calibre of player that he's brought in, is this now not more suited to a 4-3-3 formation?
Well, the thing about formations is, right, if I was a professional footballer manager, I'd probably know a lot more about them. But I always take the view that you've got to trust the manager because they do all the research on your opponents, right? But you are right. Sometimes Jimmy refuses to change his formation and sticks to the 4-2-3-1 that you mentioned. I don't know. It depends who you're playing. And I sit with fellow football fans and they get all worked up about formations. And I'm like, can I just watch the game, please? So you're right. I think there needs to be a bit more fluidity and flexibility, but it would depend on your opponent. Because come on, at the end of the day, midweek European games are a totally different ball game to Saturday, Sunday, in Scotland, completely different. So I think just got to trust the manager and his team on this one. I think.
Richard,
not really not a very good answer, but
no, it's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Richard, would you?
Can I just say what Graeme said there? Actually, that not worrying about the formation. I think it is worth pointing out that we can make a big deal about changing formation, but ultimately, if you're looking at a 4-2-3-1, that really, I mean, depending on the personnel that you can bring off the bench, if you can afford to bring on a different kind of player, that's really not much of a difference between, for example, a 4-5-1. You really aren't talking about moving the players. You're talking about their responsibilities, maybe, and where their zonal area is, their responsibilities. But that's not a huge difference. So I think sometimes we can get a little hung up on the formation. The reality is you can take off somebody that sits out there on the left and say bring on somebody like Stuart Armstrong who can play there, but he's going to perform a different role in almost the same position. So maybe this depth alters our ability to be not completely rigid, but we don't have to change it that much. We do have the ability to bring on different types of players now that can do a slightly different job.
Richard, where are you at with it?
Well, for most fans, it's a kind of football manager, championship manager kind of situation of going, leave it to the experts. What I will say is anybody who's had the misfortune of listening to my witterings with you in the past know I'm a very strong supporter of having 2 up front at Pataudry. I think that's what we should be doing. Games are won scoring goals. We now have some strikers that hopefully, touch wood, fingers crossed, etc., look like they might be capable of scoring some goals. We also don't want to leak goals, so having a defense that does that. The fascinating, I mean, not to say that the striking options moving forward are not fascinating. We know what Kevin Nisbet can do. We, yet to see obviously what some of the other players can do. it's the midfield for me that I think is going to be fascinating moving forward. You know, what Graham Shinnie offers is completely different to what Dante Polvara offers, is completely different to what Leighton Clarkson offers, is completely different to what, you know, sort of a Sivert Helter Nielsen offers, and an anti Polversa. And, you know, that to me is where I know it's ironic given what I've just said about, you know, conceding goals and scoring goals, but that for me is where, for us, I think games will be won and lost is who is going to shore up that midfield, who are going to be the playmakers, who are going to be the ones that control the ball and feed the ball and create the chances. And how that looks, I think, is going to define our season moving forward. We've got, you know, a few defensive issues, I would say, in terms of, there was, you know, a number of sort of players drawn out of position against better opposition in Bucharest. But yeah, I'm fascinated to see how it all plays out. In answer to your question, I think the 4-2-3-1 is a nice option to have, but it's played out. Everybody knows that's pretty much how we're going to set up again, apart from the Scottish Cup final. So I'm keen to see what else we can do to surprise the opposition, but also to see how more effective that we can be as an attacking force, but also game management should we be ahead in the game as well.
Can I just make just a very odd analogy here? But when I'm DJing, right, I don't like people coming up to me telling me I should be playing a different way to what I usually play. So you can't tell a manager who's a successful manager how he should be putting his team out, I don't think.
Where do you stand on that,
But,
Terry?
hmm?
Where do you stand on that, Terry? Saying that you, it's an
Look,
it's a
I
very interesting
agree.
point, Graeme.
Play some more classics, Parky.
Yeah. Well, I was
But
just going to say,
yeah.
you know, I was thinking when Richard was talking that, you know, the two up front thing, I couldn't disagree with that. You know, 4-4-2 is the vinyl of football. It's making a comeback. And we do actually allow ourselves now. I think this is the key. If you look at the players that he's bringing in, he's not bringing in classic traditional get to the touchline wingers. If he has those players, he inverts them and he looks to get across into that central point. Well, if you are putting a second striker up, then you don't invert the wingers. Or if you want to play two up front, Lazetic can drop off the front, or Ashish even. These are guys that can play a lot closer at the front line and connect with a striker, but they don't have to be where we imagine they are right now. So I think I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. I'm not saying I'm qualified to really have an opinion compared to the likes of Jimmy Thielen, who's just won the bloody Scottish Cup. But the truth is, with the type of players we've brought in, you do see the scope for a lot of flexibility and how we move in that final third. I think the back four seems pretty solid. We've brought in left back and right back that like to get forward. You know, maybe not as good at getting back as has been illustrated. But we do have some scope for changing the way that we structure in the final third, depending on the opponent. Will that happen? How would I know?
Okay. Richard, last question for you all. I'll start with you, and it's on the Yimi Talene subject. So now after this window, he's now got his own squad. He's got his own players, and we've all seen the quite damning stats up until today of recent form. Do you agree now is really the time for not just him to kick on, but the whole club to kick on?
Absolutely. You know, for as much as we can sit here and sorry, Terry, we won the Scottish Cup. That's in the past. He said
Yeah.
that. We move on. And the league statistics, you know, I know everybody's going, oh, the league statistics from November, you know, it's like, it doesn't really matter. You know, if we keep losing games, then that's unacceptable. And, you know, in answer to your question, he has been the most backed manager that we have had in an absolute age. And, you know, he's got his players, he's got who he wants, he's got rid of the ones that he doesn't want. This is his squad. We are in year 2 of the supposed year 3 project, and he needs to kick on. And you know, it's gonna take a while for all of these players to gel, but he doesn't have a lot of time. You'd remember we had this conversation last year of going, you know, you look at Eric Ten Hag, 2 games out the door. I'm not suggesting that we would be quite that ruthless, but it's going, need to start seeing 3 points on the board, need to start seeing some attractive goal scoring football, not making stupid mistakes. There is a squad there that can absolutely deliver. And I hope and absolutely, back him in terms of being able to deliver that. But the natives will be restless if that turnaround doesn't happen pretty sharpish. And he's got some big games in terms of Livingston and Motherwell in the League Cup coming up to show us what he's got.
Graeme, do you agree with Richard's thoughts?
I agree with everything he said there. I think it's unfair to make a comparison to Ten Hag though, because he was manager at a club that's run badly and is complete shambles, which is the complete opposite to Aberdeen.
I'm merely
No,
making
I
the
know.
point. Like last year,
I know.
was kind of going. I agree with you. In other less scrupulous, less run clubs, ruthlessness. We've perhaps a bit more accommodating, but yeah, it's not like for like.
No, you're right. But I mean, Tulane is backed highly. I've done a couple of events for the club recently, and I had a really, really nice chat with Tulane and his assistant, and they're just really relaxed and comfortable and confident. And then the players I chatted to as well were all like singing from the same hymn sheet. And what I like about the squad, yes, it's now Jimmy Tulane's squad, but what I like about the squad is there's a real unity in that squad. So Clarkson, if he's on the bench, or Pavala's on the bench, and Ambrose and Sockler, they never look annoyed or disappointed to be on the bench. They look part of the whole thing. And if they come on, they do a job. And if that continues, confident manager and united squad, I think we're in for an exciting up and down, because there's always a down with Aberdeen. Always a down. Last season, classic. We were going to win the league. End of October, we were winning the league. And for the first time in how many years was it? 40 years. My annual £10 bet I thought was going to bring me in hundreds of pounds. Of course, typically it never happened. That £10 bet, well, I actually made it £20 this year, because the odds are ridiculous. Hearts apparently are like something like 10-1 to win the league, and then it's Hibs. But I got something like 1,000-1. Oh, that's 20 quid. But anyway, yeah. I do think you're right. It's now Tulane's squad, and I think they'll be doing a lot of work during the international break. And you couldn't wish no disrespect to Livingston, but you couldn't wish for, if you had to pick a team to return to after our disappointing start, Livingston would probably be one of them, and it's at home as well. So I'm on Aberdeen.
I must admit, Terry, I'm now hugely excited for this game. I can't wait.
Can't wait.
I must admit, what Graeme mentioned at the top of the show about that the international breaks come at such a good time, and he's absolutely right. But then after Monday, I'm like, oh man, we've got to wait another 2 weeks now before we can see this. I can't wait now to see what we can do.
Yeah, it's frustrating for us, obviously, because we want to see these new signings hit the ground running. But it's perfect for the football club. There's no doubt about that. And I think you're using the Ten Hag analogy there. I would argue actually that the likes of Anarim and Thielen, obviously at opposite ends of the spectrum, are not necessarily in that different a place, in that they have now been backed to the hilt. They're very, very disciplined and inflexible in the way that they play football with the formation. On paper, there's a lot of tools there at your disposal, and now it is about complete accountability. So I think in that regard, yes, Thielen is now, it's his team, he's in that place. And it's like, well, these are your boys now. And so can he get a tune out of them? That's the big question. But with regards to the 2 week break, yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. It means they get 2 weeks. There's a lot of lads. I mean, look at Larsson, for example. He's not actually a current Swedish international. He's trying to get back in the squad, which means we'll get 2 weeks to work with him. So there's going to be a lot of guys like that. And the gap couldn't have come at a better time, because we clearly need to sort a few things out. And clearly it hasn't clicked yet. There is a lot of new faces. You can see that these transitions that Thielen's talking about in the final third, they're not quite coming off. And if I'm being honest, Keskinen has been quite disappointing this season. I think Milanovic hasn't maybe settled yet. You can see he's trying stuff, but it's not coming off. But now we have alternates. Now we have options. Now we can change it up. So if they need a little longer, fine, bring somebody else in. But yeah, 2 weeks is key to bed these guys in. And yeah, I have a funny feeling we're actually going to go through Livingston pretty hard.
Oh, I love that confidence. Yeah.
That's it. You got to go for it. You know what I mean?
Parky will be putting another 20 quid down just because of that, Terry.
Yeah.
It's not made of money,
No, listen. He knows people at the club that he can tell us if it's a sound bet. I don't know.
Gentlemen, it's been absolutely fantastic as always. Thank you all so much for all your time coming on the show tonight. It's very much
Thanks for having me.
Enjoy the rest of the season, and no doubt we will catch up again before the end of the season.
100%.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Stand free.
And you, Richard. I'll give you a call tomorrow. We have for a catch up.
Yeah, I'm working 11.
Excuse me, chaps. Just let me stop the recording, and then you can chat. There we have it. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I really hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, which basically means in effect you're following the channel. And even don't forget to consider the membership scheme here on Ali Beg ABTV. I'll see you again very soon for the very latest review and preview shows as the season continues. Stand free.